making it to today's media briefing. Your coverage of our incident is crucial in getting the right information out to the people who need to hear it. So thank you so much for everyone who's come. We have 5 speakers today, and we have additional county staff and representatives available for a question and answer period after we're finished. So let's go ahead and get started with our supervisor from District 5, Rob Brown.
Thank you all for coming. The message that I would like to convey today is that in spite of the fact that the fire is still burning in some areas, not 100% contained, we are rebuilding already. We've begun that process. It's going to be a long process, but I'm proud of the fact that our community is starting to rebuild itself once again. Postal services in Middletown and Hidden Valley are now fully serviced. We're having a meeting on Thursday at the Middletown High School football field at 6 o'clock, and I would like to invite all homeowners who are interested in the building process, as well as any contractors or vendors that are interested in being involved in that building process. At that meeting, in attendance, we will have members of the local, state, and federal government to walk people through the process that we'll be going through as far as community development and planning, as well as utilities will be there. The state government will be represented by the Department of Insurance, Contractors License Board, and others that will be there to answer questions of concern in that regard. We will have the North Coast Builders Exchange there, and they will be there to talk to homeowners regarding contractors and what to look for, who to hire, not necessarily specific who to hire, but how to look for who they are. And I would also like to encourage those that require housing to call that number, and those who have housing available to call that number as well, so that then we can then match those up depending upon the need and depending upon what inventory is available. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next we will have Mike Smith, Battalion Chief and Public Information Officer for the CalFire Incident Management Team 3.
I'd like to speak on just a couple of topics. First of all, this fire has grown to 75,781 acres, and I just want to stress that that's not a result of the fire's perimeter necessarily expanding, but additional work being taken by firefighters to ensure that the perimeter is easier and faster to patrol. Containment percentage has risen to 70. That's 70%. And there are over 4,200 firefighters currently working on fire lines. That number's down from yesterday, and that number of firefighters will continue to drop as suppression efforts are accomplished, and we're given the opportunity to step aside and allow the more difficult and longer pattern of work to continue the recovery. Those numbers include over 350 fire engines, 15 helicopters, 94 hand crews, and 55 bulldozers. As a result of that hard work being taken on the ground and the efforts by all of the relief agencies led by Lake County OES, the communities of Loch Lomond, Ziegler Springs, and Bonanza Springs will all be allowed to repopulate today at 5 o'clock. Firefighters continue to strengthen some of those lines in the field, but are moving towards the recovery phase for the landscape that's so important to everyone in Lake County. And some of the firefighters which remain will be repairing some of the damage done to that landscape as a result of fire control operations, including some of the work done by bulldozers. And again, this is an effort to restore what we can of the damage that's been done by this fire, because we know that it's important to everyone here in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now have an update from our Lake County Sheriff, Brian Martin.
Again, thank you for coming. We continue the repopulation efforts. Yesterday was a big day getting a large group of people home to Hidden Valley Lake, and we're going to continue doing that, getting people home as safely and as quickly as we can. We also continue to work on tracking down people who have been reported missing during this fire. As of the start of the fire, we've had 11 people that have been reported missing. 3 of those are presumed dead. 3 have been reunited, and we are still looking for 5 more. The details surrounding the people that are still missing indicate that there's a possibility that they were able to escape the fire, and that they simply have not yet been reunited with their families. So we're taking steps, checking shelters, and putting the word out on social media to see if we can get them reunited. We continue our looting patrols. Our deputies are out making arrests, and to date we've had 32 property crimes reported since the beginning of the fire within the impacted areas. We've had 6 property crimes reported in Middletown, 4 in Cobb, 11 in Hidden Valley Lake, 7 in the Clear Lake Rivieras, and 4 in the Lower Lake area. Our investigators will work diligently to make sure that we do everything we can to bring those responsible for these crimes to justice. I've been informed today that AT&T is increasing their transmission and service of phone lines to the affected areas. So if you've been without phone service, there's a good likelihood that AT&T will get you hooked back up in the very near future. As those phone services start to get restored, there are going to be people that receive evacuation calls. We want to let you know that this is not due to the fact that we waited this long for evacuation notices. The system continually tries to reach people with the evacuation message until it reaches somebody. In some instances, the phone lines were burned down and those calls did not make it through, and as soon as service is repaired, those calls will be coming through. I'd like to continue by thanking those partners in our community. This would not have been possible with the resources that we have in Lake County. I want to thank all of the state, local, and federal agencies that have come together, our community-based organizations, our non-governmental organizations, the community, the Hidden Valley Lake Association for hosting this event here. Everybody has been great partners in making this happen. It's going to be a long journey till we get restored to normal, but we're on the way and we're on the track. Thank you.
Next, we have a update from our Lake County Health Officer, Dr. Karen Tait.
Thank you. We in public health are very aware of the hardships and challenges that people are facing as they are trying to recover from this disaster. And we're doing everything we can to assist them as well as keep them safe and healthy as they move towards recovery. I do want to reiterate our message that we've given out a couple of times about the hazards of working with the debris that's burned from burned structures. That debris can contain some harmful substances that are not visible to the eye. So we're very much discouraging sifting through the debris and disturbing it in any way. And at this early time, entering the properties, there may be hazards that are even quite obvious that have not yet been removed. So we urge the public to be very cautious in re-entering burned properties. But for those who are returning, you may be aware there are distribution points that have been set up to pick up some supplies. We know that people will need masks to protect their airways from any aerosolized kinds of particles. And there are gloves as well as drinking water. And those currently are located at Calpine Visitor Center and at Station 60, the fire station on Highway 175. There's also information about a free of charge to the property owners program to assist them with the debris removal on their property, and we very much encourage the property owners to take advantage of that. It's not only free of charge, but it will be held to a very high standard, and I think it will facilitate returning those properties to a buildable state much more quickly than doing it in another way and much more safely. There is a Red Cross shelter open at the Twin Pines Casino. And I also wanted to say a word about mental health issues during this time where there may be a lot of distress experienced by many people. Among other resources, there is a 1-800 distress hotline that's available, and I'll read you the number. It's 1-800-985-5990. And I would suggest keeping that number close at hand. As you may know, the clinic services here in this part of the county were disrupted by the fire, and so we've really been lacking in outpatient clinic services for the duration of this event so far. We understand that the Adventist clinics in Middletown and Hidden Valley Lake here are likely to open in the near future, but in the meantime, we're trying to fill that gap, and we have had some significant assistance from friends out of the county. Yesterday, we mobilized the Contra Costa County Medical Reserve Corps with their supply and pharmaceutical caches up to Twin Pines Casino. And then this morning, they were replaced by the Marin County Medical Reserve Corps, who will be setting up clinics that will be running 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Twin Pines Casino. So for those who need some kind of assistance that doesn't require going to the emergency department, they can walk in at that location and receive some outpatient clinic services. And finally, this seems a little bit off topic in a way, but I do want to remind you that West Nile Virus season is not over. And there have been still some detections of West Nile Virus in mosquitoes and birds in the county. So as people are returning, and particularly if they're camping out, we do want to urge that you take some precautions to avoid mosquito bites. And we are going to be making some mosquito repellent available at both the shelters and at the distribution points. And with that, I'll finish.
Thank you. Our final speaker will be Jodi Traversaro. She is the Coastal Regional Administrator for the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services. After she is done speaking, I will have a brief update from our Animal Care and Control Director, and then we will open for questions and answers.
Thank you for coming here today. Again, the Valley Fire Call Center is open. The number is 888-565-2787. It's critical that we get this message out to those that have been impacted by this fire. I'm going to be covering a couple topics today. One is donations management. One is care and sheltering, which is currently being led by the County Department of Social Services. And finally, I'll be covering a status on the Local Assistance Center. I have to have with me today John Brown Jr., the disaster recovery specialist from the American Red Cross. He'll be covering the care and shelter status. But let's start with donations management. First, our team says thank you so much for your generous donations. We've had an outpouring of donations, as you all have probably heard, that will meet the needs of the affected people over the coming weeks. Because of the generosity, we have a surplus of items, and we're encouraging cash donations at this time. You can stay up to date with current donations at the lakecountylac.com/donation-centers. That lakecountylac.com website has been up since the start of this fire. We do still need volunteers. You can register at californiavolunteers.org or through ncoinc.org. That, of course, is shortened for North Coast Opportunities. Let's see, large animal donations, 707-263-8512, extension 46112. There's a minimum of 25 bales of hay. As our teams are out there, an army of volunteers, I'm going to say, they're collecting the outpouring of support, really all the goods that have been the in-kind donations. They're picking them up, they're bringing them back into the community, they're sorting through them, and they will be distributing these donated goods back to the individuals at these locations. It'll be at the Highland Senior Center in Clear Lake, the Kelseyville Church of Christ, and the Kelseyville Lions Club, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Lakeport, the United Methodist Church in Lakeport, Rancho de la Fuente in Lakeport, the Middletown Lions Club, and again, as everybody has already mentioned, we do have some points of distribution established for some of those debris management issues. That includes the gloves and masks and other items, garbage bags, etc. I'd like to turn it over to our disaster specialist, John Brown Jr., to cover the status of the American Red Cross shelters we have, and then I'll come back and give you a status on the Local Assistance Center.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here in your community, and first of all, let me applaud the community for the resiliency that you have in coming together at such a time as this. As we began to ramp up for this disaster that happened so suddenly, we started immediate response is to get people out of harm's way. And so sheltering is the #1 priority. So we opened a shelter at Calistoga, which is there, and now we're looking, as we got the word from your county officials, wanting to move people back home and closer to home. Middleton was set up as a main shelter site for us. And so we began that transition, and people are now using the LAC, or Local Assistance Center, to begin the process and get things going as far as their case is concerned. We have the main thing, sheltering, then we have feeding, then we have boat distribution, as well as in those services, we have medical services that we work with the county with nurses to bring practical things such as, alcohol swabs, things that you, every day, that you may or may not think about to help people. We also have in those shelters family services as far as with kids having in a distressful time. We also have, we talk about make sure the family is together. So we try to make that an atmosphere that we can work closely together. So the main shelter is Middleton, and we are at Calistoga. We'll be at Calistoga until we're not needed there anymore. We're here for the long haul. I also work with long-range recovery in communities, and so we look forward to being here for the long haul. We know that thanks to the Hidden Valley Neighborhood Association for working with social services to open up for tents and RVs. That's a major accomplishment there, and we will set up infrastructure to support the long range for feeding and make sure we get supplies there. So we're also looking at and coordinating with those at the EOC to do with animals and make sure they have care there. So we're working on big projects on many sides, and so we appreciate your cooperation and what we're doing to make sure the citizens are taken care of. And that's all I have. Thank you.
In the early hours of this fire, I would say by midnight, I was giving a tour of this particular neighborhood, and thanks to the sheriff. And early on, all I kept hearing was how great the security system was here in helping people evacuate. So the local Hidden Valley Lake Association must be commended for their assistance and support of the law enforcement here in helping people evacuate. The supervisors here, the Department of Social Services, have this county shelter task force in place. The county administrator, Matt Perry, as well as the EOC director, Carol Hutchison, and her team, as well as Rob Bound, have been working to establish RV and tent camping at Hidden Valley RV Campground on Hartman Road. As I said, if people have lost their homes and are uninsured especially or underinsured, we'll need them to call that 800 number. It's actually an 888 number to get assistance. Over 260 households as of 12:30 were served yesterday at the local assistance center. The Children's Disaster Relief provided a children's play area, which provided fun for many children. The first responders continue to provide individualized support to affected people through conversation, resource referral, and counseling. We do talk about recovery being a process. It's because the emotional impact of this thing will take time for people to process, and honestly to dive into the bureaucracy or processes of insurance or taxes is quite difficult. So they are welcome to come back to the local assistance center as many times as necessary so we can provide the right services to the community. Hardesters in Midtown donated 12 $50 gift cards. On Monday, that's today actually, here we go, U.S. Cellular is handing out prepaid cell phones. How lovely. Verizon Wireless is providing laptops and charging stations for people to use. And again, we will keep these local assistance center, our services open as long as necessary. We actually have a team on the ground working with nonprofits, as we recognize the nonprofits have a direct contact in with the people here. There are 8 community organizations offering various services to the fire survivors, including gift cards, non-perishable food boxes, medical checkups, blankets, crisis counseling, and insurance claims assistance. PG&E and South Lake Refuge and Recycling are on site to answer any questions regarding service and rebuilding, and we're handing out sort of the list of all the services available at the local assistance center. We're actually conducting mass outreach right now to the different centers and places where people congregate to make sure that your community knows where to get the help they need. And with that, thank you very much for helping us get the message out. I'll turn it back over to Mireya.
Thank you. My name is Mireya Charter. I'm serving as the Public Information Officer for the Emergency Operations Center ongoing in Lake County. I wanted to extend a thank you to the Hidden Valley Lake Association for hosting today's media briefing. And with that, I will continue with Bill Davidson, our Lake County Animal Care and Control Director's update. As we transition more into our shelter operations, he first wishes to thank all those agencies that have been here helping around the clock with field support and sheltering needs. Our local ASPCA has been here from the beginning, the North Valley Animal Disaster Group, Sonoma County, Marin Humane Society, Mendocino County, Santa Clara County, and the Petaluma Animal Services have all been instrumental in helping us to support the animal response. In the last 8 days, we have received over 1,000 different addresses to check on. Many animals have been impounded for safekeeping, others have been taken for medical care. Still others have been sheltered in place with routine follow-ups. These field efforts or routine follow-ups will continue in the evacuated areas. He would like to encourage anyone who is from Middletown area looking for a lost pet to please check in with the Middletown Animal Hospital first. When you're able, please check with the Lake County Animal Control Care Services. And lastly, many animals have fled the county and may turn up in neighboring county shelters. If you're unable to locate your animals at the Middletown Animal Hospital or at Animal Care and Control Department, please check Sonoma County, Sonoma Humane, Napa Humane, and Petaluma Animal Services. He'd like to extend his condolences to the people who are returning to the disturbed areas and areas that have been severely impacted by our fire, and wishes to let Lake County know that Animal Care and Control is here for support for the long haul, and we will get through this. With that, let's open it up to questions and answers.
A question for, you may have spoken to this before we got here, but is there someone who can address the scale, the scope, the tonnage of material that needs to be cleaned up on these burned lots, and how that will be done, and will it be separated, and metals versus other things?
Well, this question would probably be better answered by our environmental health director, but there are 2 phases of the cleanup. The first phase is coming on and looking just for obvious household waste and other types of hazards that need to be removed, kind of like a hazardous materials response. The next phase has to do with removing the ash-ridden surface, and I can't speak to how that quantity will come up to a total, but basically they will take the surface of the ground down several inches, and they'll be doing testing for asbestos and other substances, and they will continue to scrape off the surface and take that away to special landfills until that material tests safe. The goal of the program is to have the ground safe enough for a 3-year-old to play in the dirt.
Jodi, you covered a lot of this.
If I could just, one moment, if you could introduce yourself and the agency with which you are representing, that would be helpful.
I'm Tom Baker from Channel 2. I'm asking Jodi and Mr. Brown. A lot of disasters happen. Have you ever seen one this quick? Have you ever seen one that had this kind of damage this rapid?
I haven't. Of course, we absolutely have disasters where we have no notice, like earthquakes. But a fire like this, I've never seen.
The reason I ask is, Mr. Brown, there was somebody floating some stuff around Facebook saying that they thought that the response to the Red Cross was a bit haphazard. I ask you the same question. How difficult is it at such short notice to get things into place? Because when I went down to Calistoga, it was clear that the food was being managed by the folks who run the concession stand, and there were a lot of volunteers there. Just talk to me about the rapidity of it and the difficulty getting things up to quote-unquote speed, whatever that is.
Oh, very good. What happens in something that works as fast? I've experienced Katrina, Gustav, F4s, and managed. And so what happens, usually the community has some type of resiliency, and you only see it during times like this. And so our first goal is to stand up the very first shelter to get people out of harm's way. Then As usually happens, people are coming in at night, and whatever the situation is, and then we bring in feeding for long-term feeding for those that are there. And so it depends on the number of the people. When those bulk feeding kitchens come in, then you have also the resiliency of the community. So they work alongside each other to make sure the community is taken care of. And so it can be, if you remember, Red Cross is local. All disasters start local and end local. And so when you have people that are getting out of harm's way, we have people responding. And so when the roads are cut off, there are also other responses that are cut off from Red Cross. So we have to locate what's not damaged, get with local authorities to say, hey, we got, these buildings are free and clear, to be able to put people in shelters that are adequate for that time to get them out of harm's way. So it can be a number of things when that happens. And so you usually see a combined organized or unorganized chaos, because it is chaos. It's just happened. You have people everywhere. They're trying to find out information. Like I said, phones are down. The communication, you can't print a flyer and put it on the door because we're just getting the door. So that's what happens, and that's what sometimes it seems like that we're not responding as fast as it seems like we are, because we're getting resources there.
Mireya from NBC Bay Area. I have a question for Sheriff Martin. Sheriff, you mentioned that there were 32 property crimes. Can you tell me a little bit more about the nature of those crimes, and how many arrests have you made in connection with those?
The nature of those crimes are anywhere from thefts from outside the buildings to residential burglaries to vandalisms that have been reported. We expect that number is going to increase as people start returning home. Even though we have repopulation here, there's still people that have not returned from out of the area and returned to their homes to make those reports. We've made several arrests. I've committed to make the circumstances surrounding the arrest very public, and release booking photos as required by the Public Records Act, and to notify the community of what's going on. We had one gentleman who was arrested who somehow snuck into the evacuated area and stole a Jeep, spray painted it white, and was driving around with flat screen TVs and computer equipment and other household goods that he had taken from within the residences. Or the reports back over the last 2 nights are that activity in the evacuated areas has gone down drastically. I attribute that to the good work of our deputies and assisting law enforcement agencies patrolling the areas. I attribute that to the fact that we're making these arrests public and letting people know that looters aren't welcome here. And we've been through enough, and I won't tolerate it, and our community won't tolerate it. And I think the message is getting out there, and we're kind of getting back to normal. The best defense for me against looting is get people back home. And we've really been pushing hard for that here in Hidden Valley Lake, especially. It's been the most noticeable, and we're going to continue pushing to get people back home and get these areas repopulated.
When you say several, can you quantify that?
I don't have an exact number.
More than 5, or?
5 that I can think of right off the top of my head.
Sheriff, can I follow up?
Yes.
Laura Anthony with Channel 7. Have those looters been people from this immediate area, or are they coming from out of town?
Both. We had a group that came in from the Bay Area, and we've also had some of our locals that have been taking advantage of us.
We'll have time for 2 more questions, and then we're going to break out into sessions after this. Our representatives will be available.
I have a question for Mike Smith. You mentioned that you're going to be repairing the land, rebuilding the land. What are you doing? What specifically does that involve?
Constructing these control lines can be very damaging to the landscape. Oftentimes we begin by using just firefighters with hose lines, which provide a very minimal impact. Typically those hose lines can be followed up with hand crews who physically construct a walking path around the perimeter of this fire. Those walking paths can turn into human travel paths or animal travel paths, and we do what we can to eliminate them so that natural routes of egress are reverted back to. But most damaging are the control lines constructed by heavy bulldozers. Oftentimes they create large earthen berms and scar the landscape from a great distance. So those earthen berms are knocked down, and any of those bare soil areas have water bars constructed across them, and vegetation is placed back over them so that coming rains will not cause further damage and change the flow of the landscape.
Thank you. One more question for the OES people. What about accommodation for housing for folks that maybe don't have RVs is there a scenario where we see the Katrina-like RVs come into the area? Is FEMA involved in this at all?
They will be if necessary. What we're working with right now are local hotels and identifying properties that are available for rentals. We have several spots that we've identified as well as the RV and tent sites. Tait Harbor Resort and Spa has made available 48 rooms with kitchenettes, so those will be very helpful. And the main thing is we're not exactly sure what the need is yet because several people found their own forms of housing, and so we're trying to identify those who don't want to continue living with relatives or friends but need their own space. So we're working diligently to try to match the people up with the need with those who actually have housing available. Once we've determined that, if there is a further need, FEMA will come in and assist us as well.
We're going to break into less formal breakout sessions now. In closing, we'd like to extend sincere thanks to the Big Valley Rancheria and the Middletown Rancheria for significant support efforts, not only for their own tribal members, but for the county at large.
Mireya, I have a question for the group. There's been a lot of local interest specifically in the community of John Jensen, Lake County News. Local people are very interested in the community of Cobb and surrounding neighborhoods. Can somebody speak to the outlook for that region?
Once repopulation occurs, that's where, just like Hidden Valley and Middletown, will begin the rebuilding process. There's a lot of work to do up there, a lot of trees to take down, a lot to do to get ready for winter, to make sure that erosion control methods are in place. And other than that, I'm not sure exactly what specifics you're looking for.
Well, the other day, a timeline was given out of at least a week, and I wonder if anybody was able to approach it closer.
As far as repopulation?
As far as
I'm not
repopulation.
able to give that information. CalFire is working diligently with utility companies, and since Highway 175 goes through that area, we also have Caltrans and several other grant construction and other agencies up there that are trying to make it passable and get the utilities in before it's crowded with people to where nothing can get done, and there's just too many people to accomplish what we need to get done. We can get it done in days if they're up there by themselves, or we can get it done in weeks if it's crowded with people. So that we choose to get it done in a matter of days. And I appreciate the patience and understanding that the folks of Cobb have had up to this point. And so far, the reception on that has been overwhelming as far as folks wanting to be able to get it done and then get in there and beginning to rebuild our lives.
Thank you. Dr. Tait?
Thank you.
We will now break out into sessions. If you have other further questions of any of us, we'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you. 5,000.